Thanks for attending this quick introduction to Krow Professional Services Automation. Let's go ahead and get started. Starting from my home page, I have a personalized view into my services business. Everything from projects and tasks by status, billing and revenue information, through to project utilization and supply and demand information. I can also see and take action upon items to approve, such as time off, expenses, or timesheet information directly from my home page. And this home page can be configured for all of your users. If we now navigate to the My Projects tab, here you will manage all of your project activity as a user. Here I can see the list of my projects and information such as which customer account this project is for, the start date, due date of this project, percentage of complete, what's the status of the project, project owner, and what's my current burn rate of this project, which is completely configurable. I'm going to go ahead and just select a project, in this case, client implementation. And as soon as I do that, here I can see a list of all of the tasks within this particular project, as well as additional information, such as what's the status of those tasks, duration, where are we with respect to progress, as well as the hours burned. If I click on this button, Expand All, if I had any child or subtasks, I can see all of that information in one view. And of course, as I add new tasks and manage my project, I can just drag and drop and place these tasks wherever I would like within my project plan. Furthermore, if I select this Expand All button here I can see an embedded analytic as it relates to this project, so I can immediately see where we are with respect to percentage complete, project hours completion, margin or burn information of this project, what we estimated versus what the actual is, as well as the margin rate. And again, this is configurable per project or per individual. If I want to add a new task brief from here, I can just go ahead and enter in the title of this particular task, and I can press the Enter button, which would quick create a task for me within my project. Or I can go ahead and select this New Task button, and I can enter in additional information as it relates to this task before I create that task, such as who do I want to assign this task to, what's the start or due date of this task, is it a milestone, what's the milestone payment, or the estimated hours, and so forth as it relates to this particular task on this project. I can always enter this information later. As I'm working on my particular task in this project, if I just select a task, it'll open up this right-hand panel, and I can start managing the task activities, such as I can schedule one or multiple resources on this particular task. I can search for available resources to pick up this task. I can also see a real-time insight into where we are with respect to time and actuals as it relates to the completion of this particular task. If I move over to the activity pane, if I have a checklist items, as it relates to this task, I can see the completion, or I can complete various checklist items as I complete this task activity. I can also collaborate with others on this particular task as well. If I just jump over to the Time tab, I can also enter time against this tab right from my project page here without having to navigate away. And later on, when we enter and submit time, you'll see the time that I added right here will show up right on my timesheet. So here I can go ahead and I can manually add time that I've worked on this particular task, or I can even use the timer. And I can start the timer, go ahead and work on that task, pause it if I'm stopping working on that task, we're going to work on another activity and start that back up again. And when I've done working on that task, I can just click the stop button. It's going to save that time for me against that particular task. And all of this information is available from a mobile device as well. Closing that down now, one of the other items I can choose is to look at the timeline of this particular project. And as I look at the timeline for this particular project, I can see everything that's happened with this project, and I can report on this information as well, such as total logged hours have exceeded estimated hours for a particular task, and I can go ahead and expand this to see the information related to that. I can see that the status of this task has changed in priority, and again, I can see information related to that change as well. So I can be notified in real time of everything that's happening with this in this project as it's happening. What I can also do is I have additional information here right on my project page, so I can click on Task Progress. And here you'll see a different view of the task where I can update the billable indicator, estimated hours, or percentage of complete right in line here. I can also switch over to see all my milestone information, which tasks are designated milestones and any milestone payment associated with those tasks, as well as decide if additional tasks will become milestones as well. What I can also do is I can enter project notes. I can make them private to myself, or I can share those with the rest of the project team as well. I can also make notes available to customers in making project information directly available to customers by way of a community or a status report. Finally, this being a project, I can navigate to the project Gantt chart where I can manage all of the task or Gantt activity, including dependencies and predecessors. I can also export that information. So here I can see all of my tasks, and I have dependencies, predecessors with all of these tasks with a milestone at the end, go live in this example. If I double click on this task here, it opens up that right-hand panel, similar to what we saw before on the project task page, and I can continue to allocate resources to that task or even enter time against that task right from the Gantt chart. What I can also do is with these dependencies, if I drag out a particular task, it will automatically drag out and move all of these dependent tasks as well, based on these predecessor relationships that I have created. What I can also do is I can right-click here and I can add more columns to my Gantt that I wish. And if I just go ahead and do that and select this little checkbox here, it will save my view for me. So every time I come back into the Gantt view, it's going to save the columns and the view of the Gantt that I would like to see. And then finally, there's some additional information such as seeing the critical path information as it relates to this Gantt. I can also see baseline information if it exists as well. I can also create a new baseline or baseline snapshot for this particular Gantt chart, as well as export this Gantt to PDF or PNG or CSV, as well as exporting to Microsoft Project. We also support importing projects from Microsoft Project as well. So that's the example of managing project and project activity. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to navigate over to the My Work page. So if the My Projects tab was top-down project management, My Work is bottom-up task management. So here on My Work page, as a user, I can see all of the project tasks as well as non-project tasks to manage, and I can work on these across many projects all in one view. This is the default Kanban or card view, as you can see here. And I can work these tasks by just dragging and dropping. If I'm working a task and now it's completed, I can just drag it over to completed. I can also click on this little edit icon, and it will open up that same right side task panel that we saw in all the previous views, where I can manage resources, enter time, work on checklist activity, and so forth as I'm working that task. If I want to add a new task, I can just, again, add new task information and either press enter to quick create a task or use that pop-up to enter in additional information as I'm creating my task. And what I can also do is there's a lot of filtering ability here where I can see, show me today's task, personal tasks. I can filter by project, by task owner, by priority, by customer, and so forth as I'm working my particular tasks. So this is the card view. I can also see all of my tasks by due date. What's overdue versus today, this week, next week, and later. And if this was my preferred view, I can make it my preferred view, and I can set this as my default view every time I come back into my work page. Or maybe as a user, you might prefer the card view, or excuse me, the calendar view, so I can see everything in a calendar view format as well. Again, with the ability to drill into a particular task and work on that task. So that is the My Work view and managing all of your project tasks from one view. Continuing on in our navigation, now I'm navigating to My Timesheet. So this is where, as a user, I can manage and enter in all of my time, and I can submit that time for approval depending on your approval process that you would set up in Krow. I can even view and enter time for others on this person's behalf, depending on the rules and configuration within Krow as well. So I can go ahead and select a particular project that I'm working on, have access to, and I can choose a task if I'm entering time against a task, and I can go ahead and enter hours here and enter notes. And I can save that timesheet information, and then at the end of the week, I can go ahead and submit that time for approval. I also have the ability to copy time and all my information from previous week, or I can also copy from my schedule of what I was scheduled to work on that particular week as well. And this, of course, is available from a number of different ways and areas within the application, including mobile, entering time from mobile device, even entering in time directly from email into the system as well. So that's my timesheets. So continuing on to resource planning. So here on the Resource Planner tab is where you get a master view of all of the resources, what they're working on, if they're scheduled, over or under scheduled, and I can also, of course, use the Resource Planner to manage the resources on my projects and or on my tasks as well. So here, starting off from the Resource Planner, by default, I am looking at the week view. Of course, I can change this and look at a monthly view, a daily view, or even an hourly view of tasks. If such as like agencies, you might be working on tasks in hour increments, I can view and manage tasks in that capacity as well. As I'm looking at all of my resources and or placeholders, here I can see if those resources are overscheduled, indicated by red, properly scheduled in green, or underscheduled by the orange color. And I can even manipulate the view of that. And if I want to manipulate and look at resources that might be over 70%, I want to consider green as an example, and I can update my view in real time. If I also want an indication of what all of these colors mean, these are configurable by you, and I can manage these here as well. So here I'm going to go ahead and look at one resource. Amit here, he's one of our developers, and if I open him up now, I can see he's working on various projects here, as well as a row around PTO and holidays, using the PTO and holiday solution within Krow. I can see he's got some time off during this week. I can also see he's scheduled on this project during this time frame. I can also see he's scheduled on another project during this time frame, and I can see the different color coding represents that he has been requested to work on this project during these times, and this one, of course, he's already booked on. I can also see actual time based on time entry, which is indicated by the second row on this particular cell here. So I can see actual time that he has been worked on this particular project. What I can also do, of course, is if I want to add more time, I can just drag here, and I can add more time to this project for him just by simply dragging and dropping, entering in that information. I can, of course, drag and drop time out if I want to drag that time to another period of time. I can even update that particular time as well as I'm working with particular resources on the resource planner. So this is looking at a project view of all of the time. What I can do now is I can switch to what's called the schedule view. And here is an example of, this gives you not only a project level view of this resources allocation, but I can drill down one level deeper to all of the tasks that Amit in this example is working on, and I can see the task schedule time, and I can do the same thing that we saw at a project level, which is I can drag and drop and add task scheduled time to this resource directly from the planner. I can also double click on a particular task, and it's going to open up that same right panel for me, where I can search for resources, I can schedule resources, swap resources, and so forth right from the resource planner. So this is called the schedule view, which is a more granular level, task level schedule view of the planner. And task level and project level views can be synchronized, or you can use one or the other depending on your business. Of course, this represents schedule time, but maybe I'm most interested in availability. So I've switched now to the availability view. So now what I'm looking at is actual availability of hours instead of what has been scheduled. So I can see how many hours are actually available for resources to pick up new activity, new projects, and new tasks. Furthermore, I can also look at utilization information. So here what I'm looking at is actual utilization of resources. I can see the last couple of weeks of utilization. By default, I'm seeing it in hours. Maybe I want to see this in percentages, so I can just switch on this toggle to look at it in percentages. So percentage of utilization, billable utilization in this example, and I can even expand it and look at the details of where that utilization was derived and from what projects. So that's a high level of resource planner. If I continue to time off, as mentioned earlier, I can enter and submit time off, such as vacation, sick, training, anytime I might be out of the office. And then I can go ahead as a user and submit that for approval, and that can go through an approval process, or maybe it's automatically approved. Maybe there's no approval process depending on your business. But once it is approved or moves into that stage, then it can integrate to timesheets. It can show on the resource planner and so forth. It also could potentially impact resource utilization, because you can configure in Krow which time off types might impact utilization and utilization metrics. Similarly to time off, I can go ahead and look at all of my expenses. So here's an example expense report, all of my expense lines that were entered and my attachments or receipts. And as a user, I can also go ahead and submit that for approval as well. So I've managed projects, I've entered time as a user, some time off, I've entered expenses, and it's gone through an approval process. Now I'm ready to generate invoices for my clients. So now I can navigate to the Generate Invoices tab, and I can choose a period of time that I want to generate invoices for. Maybe you do monthly invoicing, but just in this example, I'm going to go back in time here so I have enough data in my system here to show you. So now what I do is I can just select a period of time and say all, and the system is automatically going to calculate and determine what unbilled activity is ready to be billed during that time frame, whether it be fixed fee, time and materials, expenses, doesn't matter. Krow supports a number of different billing types, including fixed fee and time and expense, but also retainers, installment, recurring payments, milestone payments, expenses, and so forth. And all of those calculations will be taken into consideration when it produces what information or what amount is ready to be billed for various clients. And I can go ahead and select all and automatically create invoices for all of those invoiced activities or clients at once. I can also do this in batch, by the way, where the system will automatically generate invoices for me at a particular period of time. Once I've generated those invoices, I can go ahead and take a look at those invoices. So in this example, I'll go ahead and look at this invoice here. So here I see this particular invoice and all my invoice line items, my expense items, any fixed fee items, and so forth, and everything that I've configured around how my invoicing is going to work in the system, I can see here. And I can go ahead and preview that invoice and how it's going to look before I send it to the client. So here's an example. I've said on this invoice, I want a summary by resource on the first page of the invoice. I have the details and the tax related to this invoice. And I've also stated in my configuration that starting on the second page, the client would like to see a breakdown of tasks and the notes around those tasks that resource worked on for this project, as well as a statement of expenses, and even my receipts from my expenses as well, that I can have all on my invoice. And I can also go ahead and email that invoice directly to my client right from the invoices page. So now that I've managed the project, entered time, managed billing, and invoiced information to my client, now I can start to analyze my project and my services business using delivered dashboards and reports. So I'm just going to click on the dashboard tab here, and we have a number of delivered dashboards. I'm going to go ahead and look at one called the services dashboard. And these are completely configurable. You can create as many reports and dashboards as you like. I'm just going to refresh this dashboard. It was refreshed 1 day ago, as you can see here. It's just going to bring me the real-time information. In this example dashboard, I've chosen to see what my revenue summary for this year looks like, how much we've invoiced, what's the expected revenue, how much we've recognized to date from our revenue recognition module, what's the sum of the baseline revenue for comparison. I have a report on supply and demand by role, projects by status, utilization by resource, by role, task by status, have some insight into top projects by billing, and then some analytics around average hours spent per project, how much we've invoiced in total this year, what's our current services margin look like, and where, at what margin are we receiving most of our revenue from. So this is an example of a services dashboard, and as stated before, you can create as many dashboards for all your various users as required. Furthermore, I can go ahead and look at all of the delivered or custom reports that you can create. So as an example, here is a supply and demand by role report. So I can look at what is the current scheduled resources on various projects, including pipeline projects that might not be active yet, and I can compare that against the availability of my resources that I have available to me to pick up. And if I see a delta or a concern on not having availability of resources, including forecasting or forecasted projects, that will determine me to take a appropriate step, whether that be to work with a partner, hire externally, and so forth, or manage my resource planning to properly allocate resources to those particular projects. Another example report is utilization by month. So here I can just see a metric of what our average available utilization is over a period of time versus maybe a benchmark utilization that I'm looking at. So a number of reports and dashboards deliver out of the box with the ability to create an unlimited number of reports and dashboards to support your business. So with that, that's a quick introduction to Krow Professional Services Automation. Thanks for watching.